The number one question I get asked is, how does your Minecraft look so realistic? So I thought I'd make a video to not only explain how I achieve these visuals, but to also show you how breathtaking Minecraft can actually be. Now it goes without saying, you're going to need a somewhat decent PC to run these shaders. However, stick to the end of the video where I'll show you how you can still make the most of these graphics for even the worst of PCs. A huge shout out to Disruptive Builds for the inspiration to make this video, and you can check out their video with the link in the description. Okay, so firstly, you want to make sure you've run the version you'd like to play at least once in order to download all of the assets. In this example, I'll be using 1.19.2, and once loaded up, you can simply just close the game. Next up, head over to the Fabric website and download the installer. Now for all mods shown today, you'll be able to find a link in the description to make it super simple. After that, we also need to download the Fabric API mod. So head to this site, click Files at the top of the screen to find the version you need, click the small drop down, and then download the file. Now this tutorial will go down the route of Sodium and Iris. However, you can also use the Optifine mod. But for best performance, I'd highly recommend using the mods I showcased today. Okay, so now you need to download each mod listed in the description and ensure you've downloaded the correct file for your version. I've separated the links into required, performance boosting, and aesthetic, but I'd highly recommend all of the performance boosting mods just to get the most FPS possible. And if you want to achieve the exact look I have, make sure to grab the aesthetic ones as well. You'll also find a link to a resource pack I use quite often, and you may have seen from my videos, and that is the Germs Better Leaves resource pack. Now this gives us these awesome looking bushier leaves, which can help to add lots of depth to our builds. So now we need to choose a shader we'd like to download and install. For me personally, I use the complementary shader, and this video will be taking you through the full configuration on this shader to achieve the visuals you see from my videos. But there are many other options out there, so have a look around and find the perfect one for you. Okay, once you've got everything downloaded, you should have the Fabric installer, 10 different mod files, the shader file, and the Better Leaves resource pack. So the first thing we need to do is run the Fabric installer. From here, choose your version and simply click install. Okay, now we can open up Minecraft and you'll find a newly created Fabric Loader profile. Click play and let the game fully load up. Once loaded, you can just close the game. Now we need to locate the mods folder, and the easiest way to do this is to click the installations tab in the Minecraft launcher, then click the folder icon next to the Fabric profile. This will take you straight to the .minecraft folder, and from here you'll find the mods folder. Now it's just a case of adding all 10 mod files into this mods folder. You can simply drag and drop. You should just be left with the complementary shader and the Better Leaves resource pack. Now we can load up the game once more and ensure there's no errors. Okay, all there's left to do now is to add the shader file and the resource pack. So for the resource pack, click options, head to resource packs, and drag and drop the file into here. And much the same for the shader, head to video settings, shader packs, and drag and drop into this folder. Now that everything is installed, we can head on over and jump into a world. Now you might be wondering where the shaders are, but don't worry, we just need to enable them. So head into the settings, into shader packs, select the complementary shader, and just click apply. Whilst we're here, we can also add in the Better Leaves resource pack, as well as the 2 continuity packs that the mod added for us. So now your game should be looking something like this, and although this is a huge jump up from vanilla Minecraft, there's definitely some fine tuning and improvements we can make. So let's head over to the shader settings and do some tweaking. Now the only thing we need to do on the first screen is to ensure the RP support section is set to integrated PBR+. Now this is one of my favourite settings of all, and as you can see, really transforms the reflections on the blocks. This also enables some other features we'll look into later. Okay, now let's change up the sky, and by default, it's looking a bit too much like England, so let's fix that. So head into sky, then straight into overworld sky colour, and now you want to set the red to 24, green down to 136, and move blue up to 236. Now I feel this gives the perfect shade of blue, without being too bright and overpowering. Okay, now the colour has changed, you can click back and head into night sky settings. From here, enable the galaxies. We can adjust the brightness up to 1.2 and the star brightness up to around 1.4. Now this completely transforms your night skies and makes them look a whole lot more interesting. We can take this one step further and head into the Aurora Borealis settings. Now this is just a fancy term for northern lights, and add some beautiful green lighting to your night skies. And although by default they're just visible in colder biomes, we can change this by changing the biome check setting to off. This will give you these awesome green lights no matter which biome you're in. Now that is all for the sky tab, so now we can head back and head into world. From here, head straight into waving stuff settings and make sure the waving leaves is set to off. Now although this can give a cool wind effect to the trees, for me it completely ruins the leaves when used in building, so make sure this is disabled. I also like to slightly reduce the waving speed and intensity down to 0.7, just so it's a little more subtle, although this is complete personal preference, so have a play around and find which one you like the most. Now that is everything for the World tab. We can now head to the Post-Process tab. From here, ensure both motion blur and lens flare are set to off, as these can get quite annoying. Now, motion blur can be fun to play around with to make the experience more immersive, but I personally find it quite hard to play with, and leaves me feeling dizzy after a few minutes, which definitely isn't good. So make sure this is disabled for a clearer playing experience. We can also click through to the bloom settings, and slightly decrease the bloom strength down to 0.25. Although this is a very minor change, I personally prefer the crisper look it gives. We can now click back and head into the tone map settings. Now for me, I like to increase the vibrance and keep saturation as default. This just adds a bit more intensity to the colours, but this is completely up to you. Now let's head back and jump into the water tab. You can firstly use the water type setting to change the look of the water entirely. I personally use the default realistic-ish option, but some of these are definitely worth a try. Now in here, go ahead and enable water refraction, water absorption, as well as projected caustics. These settings just make the water look miles better when you look at it from above. Now to improve the visibility underwater, increase the underwater fog distance to 160 and decrease the underwater distortion to 0.4. This allows you to see much further, which could help with finding shipwrecks and underwater ruins. You can also head into the water wave settings and play around with a few options, like the wave speed and the intensity. Now that's the water nice to customize, so we can now move on to the next tab, which is materials. There's a lot to play around with here, but the main setting to have enabled is the emissive ores. So head into the integrated PBR settings, then into emissive ores, and from here, make sure all of the ores are enabled. You can even turn on the glow for nether ores, which is pretty awesome. Now, not only does this make your caves look absolutely incredible, it also helps to make those valuable ores so much easier to see. So next up, we can head out of emissive ores, and from this screen we can enable the two settings at the top. So firstly, with auto-generated normals, this kind of adds a 3D effect to the blocks, and as you can see, it sort of makes certain pixels in the blocks pop out and create this really nice effect. And this setting pairs very nicely with the noise coated texture setting. And what this does is almost makes your textures more HD looking. When running around, you probably can't tell too much of a difference, but as soon as you stop and take a close look at a block, you can really see the change this makes. It adds a few extra pixels to every block, just as if you were playing with a much higher res resource pack. Now, I don't actually use these settings myself when recording videos, just because they do have quite a heavy impact on the performance, but they're definitely fun to play around with, so if your PC can handle it, then it's well worth a try. Okay, now let's head back, and the final setting I'll go over is the rain puddle settings. Another of my favourite features, and this simply adds water reflections to the ground during and after it has rained. There's also the choice to have this on at all times if this is something you're interested in. Before I finish off, I'd also like to show you how I get the connected glass. This is simply achieved by having the continuity mod and resource packs installed. It also connects a few other blocks like bookshelves and sandstone. Now, if you've just changed all of these settings but your game is running quite slow, you can go through and disable some of the features. I'll start off by disabling the PBR. Now, although this looks amazing, it does have quite a heavy impact on performance, so change this to basic and you're good to go. The next change I'd recommend is heading into shadows and lowering the shadow map resolution. This does mean your shadows won't be as crisp, but hopefully it can save you a few frames. So just go through and test out these sliders to find out which ones run well, without compromising too much on the visuals. So that is it. You can now have your game looking exactly like mine. If this has helped, I'd really appreciate a like on the video, and subscribing to the channel would massively help me on my journey to 1 million. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.